Both from this area. As you can see on the right, Michael Bernat is an Indy native, quite the Colts fan. And on the left, Ben Wienburg, a Cincinnati native. He is playing Rug Delver. Looks like we're already slightly underway. And we have a Delver of Secrets Nimble Mongoose for Ben.
What's normally in a Rug Delver deck?
Yeah, this is a far more normal Rug Delver deck. But I'm just shocked that Ben hasn't flipped his Delver yet.
Like that quick? Surprisingly? Okay, well.
Yeah, I mean, Ben is known to never miss on his Delver flips.
Oh, that was the one you were talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So amazingly enough, you are getting two of the slowest decks out there typically. We had one that finished in under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And Michael is up already 1-0.
Yeah. So he's so he probably played like a 20-minute game one. Probably since he won, it often takes a lot of repetitive stuff to go off. All right. So at the end of Ben's third turn, Michael is going to play a repeal. X is 1, and it returns any non-land permanent that costs X. Since Delver is a 1-mana card, Delver of Secrets going to Ben's hand.
Okay.
And then Michael Burnat's going to draw a card.
Okay, we see a Force of Will. We see a couple other cards.
Yeah, so a Scalding Tarn for Michael Bernat.
Yeah.
Basically, it's going to be very difficult without seeing the full contents of Michael's hand to know whether or not he can go off. He needs a critical mass of spells. It's usually going to start with a High Tide.
Yeah. Looks like he had 2 Brainstorms there in his hand.
So it's not a very fast combo deck. It's actually one of the slower combo decks. However, it has a perfect mana base. It is mono islands. Mono basic island. Well, islands and fetch lands for basic island.
Yeah.
And then it also has a good amount of disruption and.
Well, with the Wasteland being in a lot of decks,
speak to the devil.
To be able to avoid Wasteland is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then Wasteland becomes a
and then he has
colorless 1-drop on the land.
Force of Wills to protect himself from other people's things. The other card I liked in, I've actually played High Tide at an open before. I was a big fan of Pact of Negation.
Really?
A lot of times when you try and go off, you go off. Basically, deck uses High Tide to double the High Tide makes all your islands produce 2 mana.
Yep. Or
an extra mana. So if you cast 2 of them, they would make 3 mana. And then your goal is to use it with card drawing spells and untapped spells, including the absurdly expensive Candelabra of Tanos.
Yes, the $200+ card. We saw a Polluted Delta played by Michael there.
Michael being very patient. Has a Brainstorm in hand and a fetch land in play, but Michael still chooses not to use his Brainstorm. Maybe his hand's either fairly good and he's ready to go off, or it's very bad and he needs his Brainstorm to help him get in. However, that being said, Ben's actually threatening lethal in a couple turns, so.
Okay, brainstorm your Brainstorm.
So, given the fact that he's responding to Ben's Brainstorm, I'm going to guess that Michael's hand is very bad, and he needs he really needs his time to set up. So, I was going to put 2 back.
Force of Will?
Probably. No, I doubt he's going to Force of Will. Ben's Brainstorm. He might actually play a second copy of Brainstorm. I believe there's also that. So, all right, fetch land from Michael Bernat.
Taking him down to 14. All right. Pulling out an island.
I'll do.
So for those of you just joining us, this is the second match of the 3rd round of Legacy at SCG Indianapolis. I'm Robert Norton, joined in the booth by Anna Prozac. You are seeing Rug Delver playing against High Tide, and if you're watching Michael Bernat, that is his 2nd Brainstorm of this turn right now that he's doing. He cracked a fetch land to shuffle his library to get some different cards on top, and now he will brainstorm to get something better here.
It looks like Michael has quite a few cantrips, but not a lot of combo pieces.
Yeah, I think about that when it comes to Legacy. There are certain people, including you did real well this weekend. Started out slow. Matthias Hunt, another SCG live commentator, who typically when it comes to Legacy will default to High Tide because it is something that, like you said, I understand how to play it, and it always seems to work well for me. So,
one card I do like in Michael Bernat's deck that you know see on a ton of Legacy combo decks, but I love it in this deck is Gitaxian Probe.
yeah,
2 copies of it, and sometimes you got to know what you're up against. Like Ben could have, you know what's in Ben's capable of if you're a competent high tide player like Michael is, but you need to know what they actually drew, because you have really no, like throughout the game you really have no reason to suspect anything until you're ready to go off. They have no reason to counter anything. They could have anything from Force of Will, Stifle, Daze, Spell Pierce, Spell Snare, Red Blast, Flusterstorm. They have a bunch of different things that you care about, and they're gonna put you on a pretty quick.
I mean, for Michael, the good thing about this is that a lot of times playing the Gitaxian Probe early is to his advantage, but in his case, getting it late just before he wants to combo off is perfect, because then he now knows what, like you said, his opponent will have in his hand potentially.
Yes. Michael only wants to basically Gitaxian Probe on. So Michael falls to 8. So he's actually in. No, but he might actually have to go off on his turn.
Okay, that is a third brainstorm. All right, he's drawn a fourth brainstorm now off of that. Looks like
He's drawn a bunch of cantrips, so he might actually be forced to wait a turn. I see a Ponder and a Preordain.
And he's putting those right to the top of the deck.
He still has a Merchant Scroll as well. Brainstorm number 4. This one's basically Reach Through Mist. Every time I see somebody play a Brainstorm just a cycle, I make them announce it as Reach Through Mist, which is basically a 1-mana card, 1-mana instant that draws you a card.
There you go.
That's all it does, but it's really one of the things in Legacy is like a lot of times you actually just need to cycle. Mike's very choked on mana here. Daze from Ben Wienburg stops Michael from cycling.
Okay. So we know he drew either a Ponder or a...
yeah, looks like Ben has at least a Pyroblast in his hand. And I don't think Michael can actually go off this turn. So
Merchant Scroll.
Merchant Scroll. This might get Repeal. But if Michael doesn't have a High Tide, I believe it's going to get actual High Tide.
Okay. Not normally what you get as far as the Merchant Scroll piece. That's normally not a...
You get blue instants with
Well,
Merchant
I know.
Scroll.
Yeah.
It's a very versatile tutor. It's not it's actually not one card that Merchant Scroll is meant for in this deck. Well, you'll need a High Tide at some point to go off, but this deck has a bunch of cantrips and a bunch of. Well, a lot of times you get a turnabout to untap your lands. Once you get a Cunning Wish. I get Brainstorm a lot. So looks like Michael's just resolving this, or not sure if Ben's thinking. Oh, Ben uses Force of Will to counter the scroll. And Michael Bernat is deciding whether or not he wants to allow that to happen. So,
land.
Merchant Scroll again.
Oh.
So if
Okay, there we go.
I think Ben's actually got lethal in play. What he has 4 cards in his graveyard. He needs 7 for threshold. So he can attack with his creatures, and to get threshold, he can wasteland his own land and use his fetch land. And that's a guaranteed 7 cards.
That's the fun part of Wasteland. Wasteland's not. I mean, there are many times you watch a Legacy match where it's more optimal to wasteland your land to get to that on there than it's normal, because normally you don't expect that. You don't normally expect you wastelanding your own land. Okay, he scoops. We are on to game 3 here. Ben Wienburg tying it up 1-1 with Michael Bernat, sporting the Colts Andrew Luck jersey, and they are playing right now against the Cleveland Browns. As you have
I guess I could say my hometown team.
Yes.
I'm more of a Cardinals fan now.
Yes. So, all right, it's going on to game 3 here. We have Rug Delver doing what it does, just getting out there, putting out pressure. Michael had, like you said, a lot of cantrips, but unable to hit the pieces he needed to get the job done on this round. Going into game 3 with Michael on the play.
One thing in that game might have been a key point where Michael decided not to, I believe it was on his 3rd turn, he decided not to brainstorm. As it turns out, he ended up drawing all 4 of his brainstorm and just did not have the time to cantrip through his cards. So if he would have aggressively used his brainstorms, he might have at the time. I don't know if how many additional brainstorms he drew in his.
He ended up getting to all 4. That's the thing. So
I don't know how many he had when he made that decision on turn 3, but I know he had at least 1.
Okay. For those of you knowing, we have an update on the floor. BBD, Todd's partner on the
Brian Braunduin.
Todd's partner on the videos that you see on Star City Games is currently 3-0. Looking to hopefully make it this week to the top 8. The last 3 events have been kind of rough for him. He has been winning
on
camera for the last 3 events.
Yeah, and lost all 3.
So this time, when it's winning in, he will not be on camera.
Yeah.
We'll get someone else on there, because we want to see him make top 8. He's been playing some phenomenal Magic. I mean, obviously, if you're finishing in the top 16 of multiple events in the Open Series consecutively, that says something right there.
Really got to know him a lot better during weekend in Cincinnati. He stayed at my place, and
really,
yeah, we him and a bunch of the other Roanoke people, we got to spend some quality time together.
Well, I think that's important. I think because like you and Lauren Nolan have a good relationship that you guys can, it makes it easier. You can refer to stuff, different stories, things like that. All right.
Makes coming to Magic tournaments fun.
Oh yeah, it does.
Having a bunch of people that
having people definitely, absolutely. All right, so it looks like, did Ben go down to 6?
I believe so.
Okay.
Let's say, Michael, whenever you see the person on the draw shuffling and the person on the play not shuffling, you can safely assume that the person on the play kept their hand. In this case, it would be Michael kept his 7, and Ben is down to 6 cards.
Okay, the only thing we might want to be concerned about here is I know Ben's deck can be very aggressive very quickly. I mean, we are approaching 13 minutes, and we get extra turns, but still we're approaching a time where High Tide has to start putting the pieces together fairly quickly.
One of the reasons High Tide is so notorious is not that the turns are slow, it's that the last turn is slow, and with the way the rules are set up, and you have extra turns and not extra time.
Yes.
Those extra turns can actually, go upward of, 20 minutes.
Some of the things that Yeah, but then we joked about it off air about the 3-hour
Delvermere
match,
Yeah.
which I'll bring up earlier.
Yeah, it happened in the quarterfinals of the Invitational in Indianapolis.
Wow.
The best 3 out of 5. Lauren Nolan actually ended up defeating Max Tietz, but neither player is known for their speed of play.
Okay, so we saw a preordained, back-to-back preordains.
Big fan of preordain in Legacy. Are there ponders in? There are not ponders in Ben's deck, so preordain is worse at setting up Delver secrets, but much better as a card filterer. So Ponder's also better with fetch lands, but I think Preordain gets you. I play Preordain in my counterbalance deck. Very happy with it.
Because he just got a Force Will off of that. Michael's at 3 islands.
Yep.
He's got a Merchant Scroll in hand.
Scroll, it's going to get a spell snared from Ben, more than likely.
There it is.
So that's actually a pretty poor turn of events for Bernat, because the only 2-mana card in his entire deck is Merchant Scroll.
And
every once in a while, a repeal will be X's one, but
okay, Preordain.
Michael getting into the Preordain game. He's got one more to catch up, but he also only has 2. Each of the whereas Ben has 4. So each player has played half of their Preordains in their deck. I'm surprised to only see 2 in Bernat's deck. He's really splitting his cantrips up. He has 2 Gitaxian Probe and 2 Preordain.
Okay, so we're going to do another one, and that would be Brainstorm.
His cantrips are very important for Michael Bernat. He really needs to hit a correct number of lands, an absolute correct number of lands. So he can't play a ton of them, but he needs the ability to play one every turn. He has an 18-land deck, and he can't pack his deck with a bunch of cards, but he needs the ability to find his lands without playing a bunch of them. So that's what the cantrips end up doing for him.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Legacy is, as a player, fascinating to me, is that standard you have 24 or 25 lands sometimes in decks. When you get down to that dangerous, getting near 20, you're dangerous. You're not going to be able to play anymore. And here you can see low amount of lands, except for the land stack, obviously. But you can see under 20 lands in a deck, and it'd be effective. I mean, Michael here has 5 lands, and including a fetch line that he can crack there.
He's choosing not to. I don't know if he wants to play around Stifle or if he wants to actually draw the cards that are on top of his deck. Alright, so Ben really knowing the contents of his hand, I'm going to guess Ben has 7 blue cards in his hand. And Ben's going to have to discard one of them because he's too good at drawing cards. So the pretty useless days.
Yeah, right now with the fact that he's got 6 lands or 5 lands available to 6 lands available to him. Looks like he drew more 2 lands actually, and I believe that would be.
It was a Time Spiral, another Brainstorm, a Blue Sun Zenith, which is actually going to be very good. It'll help Michael set up a fight. What he wants to do, and it's not like an excellent thing, but he wants to be able to, in one turn, cast all his spells, basically. Yes. So at the end of Ben's turn, he's going to cast a Blue Sun Zenith when he's ready. I'm sure when Michael will feel the need to go off. He's under no pressure here.
Okay, there we go. Nimble Mongoose.
Not no pressure anymore. Nimble Mongoose are a pretty good draw, but yeah, Mike's actually going to do it right now. So the 7th land from Bernat. We might see a Blue Sun Zenith. Maybe it'll probably be for 2. Might be for 3, depending on how much Michael wants to play around a future copy of Days. But Blue Sun Zenith is a good card. It lets him do something productive at the end of Ben's turn. Alright, so it's going to be for 2.
There we go. And
probably one of the best cards in the High Tide deck. When I played it, I always wanted a second one for these situations. Or sometimes I would actually just burn a High Tide.
okay,
Alright, so Spell Pierce your Inspiration. Basically what it is draw 2 cards.
yeah.
So Michael's going to untap with 7 lands available to him.
I believe he has
And a pretty good hand. I'm not sure if there's a High Tide available, but outside of that, I like Michael's chances to go off this turn. May not have a protection spell.
All right.
He's just gonna pass the turn to Wienburg.
All right. Yeah, it's got, wow, 3 Force of Wills in his hand, a Brainstorm.
So, Ben's hand quite stacked. Both players playing at a good pace. We played, 6 or 7 turns in the last 2 minutes,
Yeah.
which is really good for both players.
Yeah, for
Both these
especially for
players
high tide.
know. And this is like the first turn that Ben's had like a legitimate decision to make. He just drew a Brainstorm. He definitely wants to cast it so his Mongoose can attack for 3. But Bernat's going to be up against a wall of counter spells once stuff once his spells start to hit the stack.
I think I saw Ben have a Verdilion click there in his hand.
Okay,
There
yeah,
it
that is
right
a
on
bit.
top.
That's going to be a crippling click. If we want to come down, it's going to increase the clock by quite a bit, and in addition, it's going to strip Bernat of a key card. More than likely a High Tide. But once in a while, I might strip a Time Spiral. The thing is, if Bernat's a very patient player, he doesn't feel the need to go off.
Okay, there's a,
Brainstorm from Bernat.
yeah.
There are 3 forces now in Ben's hand. I believe his hand is going to be 3 counterspells, so 3 counterspells is not easy
To fight your way through.
to fight your way through.
Especially in your high tide deck.
Yeah. One thing Bernat might actually consider doing is just firing off a Time Spiral. Usually the combo is High Tide plus Time Spiral.
Yeah.
Allows you to untap with a bunch of mana and things, but he's going to need to test spell some of these Force of Wills out of Ben's hand. So he's going to need to resolve some impressive cards, but
Okay, there's a Merchant Scroll.
Merchant Scroll, that might get something. This is going to be a good card for Bernat either way, unless it gets spell snared. You're going to get a blue instant. Not an interrupt anymore. We don't have those.
No.
But the card that it is most likely to get is Pact of Negation.
Okay, he let it resolve.
Yeah. And either way, it's going to serve the purpose of getting a counterspell out of Ben's hand.
And there's your Pack of Negation right there.
So yeah, so if Bernat counters the Merchant Scroll, it's no big deal for Bernat.
Okay, for those of you that know, Pack of Negation is blue, counter target spell at the beginning of your next upkeep if you do not pay 3 blue. If you don't, you lose the game. And with the ability of High Tide to have infinite mana, paying 3 blue is not an impossibility.
Yeah, so don't get to your opponent's next turn very much. Once you go off, they're dead. So you just it's a free Force of Will. You do not have to have an extra blue card of life.
Okay, they're passing back and
So
forth
this is
here.
going to be pretty bad for Bernat. I believe we'll see an end of turn Vendilion click
There it is.
from Wienburg. Yep. Also an Ancient Grudge in Wienburg's graveyard. That's going to that would get potential candelabras from Bernat.
All right.
I'm probably not too happy about that
No.
turn of events. I believe he only has one High Tide and 2 Time Spirals. So.
Okay, there it is.
Alright, so we see his hand. There's Turnabout from left to right. Turnabout, High Tide, Time Spiral, Repeal, the Pact of Negation, I believe,
Yeah.
and Time Spiral, number 2. So Wienburg's almost certain to take the High Tide. And if I were Ben, I would actually be wary of the clock, because he actually does need actual turns to kill his opponent, where Michael only needs 1.
That is true.
I've seen a lot of people like, you could try and go off, he'd probably be unsuccessful. Oh, Bernat's going to take the Pact of Negation. Some.
All right. Michael draws, passes back right away.
And now, taking 6. Thing about Ben is like the Ancient Grudge might say like, all right, so that means he was looking for cards to take out. That probably means his Lightning Bolts or his other burn spells.
Okay, that is.
All right, so Turnabout at the end of Ben's turn is going to try and tap Ben out. I believe that's going to tap all of Ben's lands.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for.
All right, so he taps. Looks like he's gonna pass back there. No.
No. Okay. So basically, what happened is Ben decided to float mana, and so that way Michael cannot repeal to an untapped opponent, a tapped out opponent.
Okay, so Michael's thinking. Oh, he's currently floating blue, red, red.
So Michael untaps. Ben is tapped out, but what Bernat doesn't know is that there are 3 Force of Wills in Wienburg's hand.
Yeah, so not even if he tries to get it going, that he can counter it at least twice, if not a third time if need to be. Because I believe all his cards in his hand were blue.
If I'm Ben here, I count it. If you ever play against a High Tide,
Yeah.
When in doubt, counter the High Tides.
Okay.
Good friend from Georgia, Andrew Schneider. We jokingly call him the worst 2-time Legacy Open winner ever. There's probably only like 2 or 3 people that have done that.
I'm wondering how you can be the worst.
Yeah, right.
Worst winner. That's you know, polar opposites.
No, he's won 2 Opens, and he still is like very kind of he kind of wades his way through a lot of his matchups. He self-admittedly is not an expert on all of the decks in Legacy. So is like, hey, I'm gonna play against Enchantress this round. What's my game plan? It's like, well, if they don't have any Enchantresses in play, they can't win. So it's like, okay, so I side in my Pyroclasms and my counter all their Enchantresses, and sometimes it works. And then he was playing against High Tide once, so like, all right, what should I counter? That's all I can do is put him on a clock and counter some stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, just counter the High Tides. And so it's a plan, like, sometimes if you are more nuanced, it is not as effective, but as a rule, it can be quite effective. So Cunning Wish from Michael Bernat. Cunning Wish is part of the Wish cycle from Judgment. They allow you to get various card types out of your sideboard. It's a tutor This one gets instance. Yeah, so basically they've gone through various iterations. Now it only gets cards from your sideboard, pretty much.
Okay, so what is he going to get from his sideboard?
Nothing yet. Ben Wienburg played his second Force of Will, so both spells are countered, and Repeal is going to return the Vendilion Click to Ben's hand.
Okay, that is the, I'm sure the judge can notify him that is the end of times. We should be on turns now. Ben can swing in.
So Ben's going to have, this match is going to end naturally.
Okay.
Basically, Ben is going to win, if not on this turn, on his turn 5. Because this is turn 1, this is turn 2, and they won't be playing anymore.
Well,
turns.
there's a high tide from Michael.
Had a very, very excellent card from.
That was his draw right off the top.
And so basically, I believe Ben has a Force of Will available to him and a Vendilion Click available to him. I'm not sure what his third card is, but I would imagine that it's blue, since Ben drew a card, played a land, and attacked, and he had 7 blue cards at one point. So Ben's basically deciding if he wants to. One thing I might do if I'm Ben is actually Vendilion Click now in response to the high tide.
Just to get something out of his hand because of the Vendilion Click.
Right. Get more information even.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the entirety of Ben's hand, but he goes ahead and lets it resolve. Preordain float a mana. Basically, he's just gonna look for some protection for cards. One dangerous thing with the Time Spiral. Time Spiral is the card that Bernat is going to attempt to resolve. Time Spiral costs 6 mana and untaps 6 lands, but it also draws both players 7 new cards.
Yes, and that's something
So
that
if Ben can get Lightning Bolts. I'm not sure if he has them in his deck, but yeah, getting burned out. He has them in his deck, but he has every Rug Delver plays Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, but we don't know if he
may
sided
not
them
have
out.
it in his sideboard.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like Bernat drew a Force of Will. So it looks like we're going to go for. This is 8 mana. He wants to tap at least 6 lands so that when Time Spiral resolves, he can untap 6 lands.
Yes.
So he's floating 3, I believe, 1 from the Preordain and then now 2 more. So Ben is going to cast Vendilion Click in response, I believe.
Okay. Now we are going to find out what's in Michael's hand.
Yeah, this is a thing because High Tide affects both players.
Just a Time Spiral
And a Force of Will.
Will.
And one of the cool things is like Michael. Now we're in hardcast Force of Will range. Now that each player has double their blue mana, so
You can naturally cast it without having to lose the card and pay the normal penalty involved with it. All right, here.
So this is a very interesting decision from Ben. They're doing time, and this is why High Tide has its notorious reputation. This will more than likely be the last match in the tournament to finish.
So what are we looking at here? What do you think he should do here in this situation?
If Ben has only a Force of Will in his hand, one of these Time Spirals is resolving, either the one on the stack or it's just going to resolve.
So
basically, if you would take a Time Spiral, take the Force of Will and counter the Time Spiral,
yeah,
Mike will just cast the other Time Spiral.
Okay.
Mike takes the time spiral and counters the counters the time spiral on the stack and takes the time spiral. Mike just hardcasts Force of Will. So Ben wants since it shuffles your graveyard and your hand into your library. Ben just wants a density of blue cards.
Well, and right now he gets back a combination of those Force Wills to be able to shut this down to make the process stop. If he can stop it, it's over.
Right.
All right, so this is the second game, or the second match we've been able to see here at the SCGINDY for round 3. We are turn 2 of 5 with Michael Bernat hitting his time spiral to be able to have another turn and draw 7 cards. Before that, we just had a Verdilian Click come into play for Ben Wienburg.
Yes,
So if Michael does not come up with an answer for now, to have High Tide go off, it will be over when it comes back to Ben.
Based on Michael's high cantrip, low land count, even though both decks are high cantrip, low land, the fact that Michael Bernat gets the turn, decks that resolve time spiral are overwhelming favorites to win. Resolving a time spiral with at least one High Tide active is very good, and
all right, let's see what happens.
I see a second High Tide for Bernat. That's probably going to come out, and now after a High Tide, Michael Bernat has all the mana he wants.
Yes.
So he's going to want to Ben. If you're Ben, you want to counter the action spells, but I'm not sure. Did Michael just pass? Did he miss? He has a Force of Will. I know he has a Turnabout, a High Tide. Looks like 2 Force of Wills now. All right, so he's got something.
Now there's a High Tide.
I believe there's a Merchant Scroll in there, so that's very good for. That's something that can get him Blue Sun Zenith or Cunning Wish,
which will allow him to start the engine to go.
Ponder as well.
Yeah. The one thing I saw a High Tide player do on camera in this CG event is he got his mana up so high that he just took his opponent with the Blue Sun Zenith and said, "I'll mill you."
Yeah, that's the primary win condition of this deck.
Mill you for everything. Goodbye. It'll be interesting to see if he can make it there, because that is.
You can't quite go over. This is actually really impressive than a deck that can make infinite mana. I feel like making like 200 mana is a lot more difficult than making infinite mana.
Well, it still has to cycle correctly. You still have to draw the right cantrips to be able to keep the engine moving, basically.
Oh dear. I believe we're going to have a turnabout untapping Michael Bernat's lands. I'd have actually liked to see, given that Michael has so much mana, turnabout Ben's lands, and then go to the next turn. That means only Force of Will
could stop him.
Yeah, even in future time spirals. However, if Michael Bernat's card is something along the line, he has a Candelabra in play too.
Oh, yeah.
So
I didn't see that.
Yeah, or Candelabra in hand.
Oh, in hand, yeah.
He has all the cards in the world. I just saw this Candelabra right here.
Okay.
Here's your
$200 winner right there.
Yeah. Merchant Scroll.
Now, could this be for a Cunning Wish?
It could be for Cunning Wish. It could be for Blue Sun Zenith. It could even be for Pact Negation. But I feel like here's the card that Ben would fight over. I do believe that, yeah.
Okay.
We got some hardcast Force of Wills going on here.
Force of Will, your Force of Will.
Nope. We'll each pay 5 mana because High Tide lets us do that.
Well, for Michael, 5 mana just means he has to go an extra turn. Or not an extra turn, but maybe an extra cycle. Alrighty.
Ben thinking how much he wants to fight over this. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Ben does not have a spell snare, but he does have a second Force of Will. But so does Bernat.
We were having dueling Thragtusk and dueling Angels, and now we have dueling Hardcast Forced Wills. Not often do I get to see 2 Hardcast Forced Wills, and there's the Blue Sun Zenith.
Yeah, so we don't have a mana counter for ourselves.
No.
But Michael has quite a bit floating, and if we could get confirmation on how much this Blue Sun is going to be for when it finally happens.
Okay, there's a polluted Delta.
Yep.
He will crack
Fall
them
to
both.
2.
Obviously, Ben did not have the Lightning Bolt in hand.
I doubt he had him in his deck.
Okay. Okay, there's the Candelabra. That's barely on your screen there.
Yep. Good old Antiquities wording. The mono artifact part of Candelabra means that you have to tap it to use it.
Yes.
So it's not like an infinite mana engine with High Tide, but it is a lot of mana engine. So basically, each of those islands produce 3 mana. So Michael Bernat is generating either 10 lands in play. So with 10 lands, he would generate, basically, a Candelabra is going to generate 20 mana. You spend 10 to untap 10, but those 10 add 30.
Yes.
So this Blue Sun Zenith is for quite a bit. So yeah, Blue Sun Zenith for the low number of 28. So Michael Bernat drawing 28 cards. Actually, I wonder if he's going to have anything good in his hand.
With 28 cards?
Yeah, I think he'll be able to manage.
Yeah.
So basically, he's just going through. He's going to try and avoid casting another Time Spiral again. This is a safer way to go off. So he's going to cast 3 High Tides. The tide is now at 6.
Yes.
Each island makes 6.
So that is 48 mana potentially on the board.
So he can turn about himself a couple times.
Okay, even better.
So this will be 6, 24, 48.
And he'll turn about it.
48, 44. Taps lands. Then this Merchant Scroll will get the Blue Sun Zenith again.
So that'll take him down to 46.
42 mana.
42 mana, that's right.
And then he can tap all his lands again. He's just making sure he's going to have protection. Okay. So,
well, congratulations to Michael Bernat showing us how High Tide can win. Yes, granted, it went to turn 2, a little bit of extra time.
Yep.